This is the third small group discussion with J. Krishnamurti and Gstaad, 1965.
Let's start all over again, sir, from a different... from a different area altogether. Start simple.
What were you have in mind, an area?
No. Sir, how does one set about to bring about a different society, a different organized social relationship? Would that be worthwhile to discuss, or is it not worth it?
Well, could try it.
Or is too worn, thread worn there?
It's a very hypothetical question.
I know, that's why I was hesitant asking it. All right, let's leave that.
Would you like to speak of meditation, sir?
Well, there was one point in what we were discussing last time which interested me about this noise. The noise, we were discussing the noise of the mind. And it seemed to me this was very similar to a kind of noise which can arise in radio receivers or amplifiers when the output is what is called fed back toward the input. You see, the amplifier is very sensitive. Ordinarily it should be sensitive to the signal.
It's sensitive to everything.
Well, it's sensitive to whatever comes in.
Yes.
But what comes in is carefully tuned to an external signal, and therefore it amplifies. But if it turns out that, you see, then it's built up to a very high intensity. If it's turned out that some of the energy goes back to the input, then the thing goes around in a circle, makes noise, no longer serves as an amplifier. As I was wondering if this, therefore, this noise is analogous to the noise of the mind, which also goes around in a circle.
I don't quite catch it.
Well,
perhaps if you talk in terms of the mind rather than...
Yes, you see, the analogy is to this, that there might be a place in the mind, let's say, which is very sensitive. So a very small thing will produce a big
noise,
a big result, which might have a useful function if this small thing which is amplified were something genuine. Then it would be sensitivity. But if the result of this amplification goes back to the sensitive point, then it will go around in a circle, building up.
Building, yes.
And this is actually very analogous to something that does happen in radios or in amplifiers. And that's
Instead of picking up noise outside, they pick up their own noise.
Yes, they create their own noise instead of picking up a signal.
And then they broadcast their own noise.
Yes, that's right, which is
The
meaningless.
loudspeakers in the tent did that. Instead of broadcasting a speaker, before the speaker arrived there, the fact that they were tuned on,
Yeah.
they broadcast
Their
their own being tuned
exactly.
on.
It whistles. You see, the
And
noise
they
from the
whistle.
speaker goes back to the microphone, which goes onto the speaker and back to the microphone, and it builds up in a whistle.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Now, if you tried to make sense out of that whistle, you would be lost, you see,
Right.
out of whatever noise it was, because it would not make sense.
Yes, right.
And now I say there may be something similar in the mind, that it makes noise in this way which has no sense. And we try by words to give it sense. We see you could pick out something in that noise which resembled something that you knew, which would be false. You see, there is...
Are you using that analogy as a sort of endless continuation of
That's
the
it.
hum we were talking about?
Yes, that's it. It goes on and on.
Let go of that.
And we can't stop it. And at the same time, we try to find sense in it when it has no sense.
Yes, sir. I understand that, but would it be much more... I'm not belittling what you're saying. Would it be much more important to find out whether this dynamo that's making so much noise in the house as thought, endless thinking, whether it is at all really possible to come to unplug it so it has no power. No power to start the machinery, or no power for it to start itself and caught in this vicious circle which you are trying to describe.
Yeah, well, you see, now I say here's the question that I think this machine has under certain conditions, a useful function, and that it will, therefore you can't just simply turn it off, but it must be made to function properly so that it does not go back.
Kind of be a tool that's available but not necessarily in use.
But that's exactly what you must do with the amplifier. You see, you must arrange conditions so that the speaker does not send the energy back to the microphone, so the microphone is sensitive to the man who is talking, and then the noise stops, you see.
Quite.
In other words, somebody had to make arrangements in the tent. I don't know how they did it. You would alter the dials or you do something.
Do you think that perhaps there are certain conditions in the mind that one could find? Is this...
Well, possibly. You see that there must be a state of mind in which this machine is ready to function, but does not function from its own noise.
I understand now, yes. Let's go on.
Yeah.
Keep on talking a little more about. Let's see.
Well, the way I sense this, is that I can sense faint thoughts. I would call them faint thoughts, which seem to have tremendous effect, and they seem to be picked up by something. Let's say in the solar plexus. I don't know where, but it seems that way, and to produce powerful urges. And I would call that the feedback, because the urge then alters the thought, and produces the thought. That goes back to the sensitive point.
Yes,
yes.
What's the question, sir?
Well,
let's see.
Yes.
What is the question we're trying to...
Well, we're trying to see if one can see more clearly just what this mechanism of noise is, and we want to turn off the noise without turning off the useful function of thought, or even of this sensitivity. Yes. You see that one
Yes. I see. We need thought.
Yes.
Thought is necessary.
And also sensitivity is necessary.
These two.
Yes.
And to keep sensitivity, keep sensitivity to
something real, to the fact, let's say.
No, I don't get it.
Well, you see, if we make the comparison to the microphone again, somebody is speaking into the microphone. We want that to come out on the speaker. The microphone must be very sensitive to the man who is talking, but it should not be sensitive to what comes out of the speaker, because that will create noise.
Yes.
Now, suppose I were to say that thought is sensitive to something deeper.
Just without analogies,
Yeah.
Just tell me the essence of it.
Well, thought is sensitive to something deeper, or responds to something deeper. But thought,
But wait,
yeah.
if there is something deep, does thought respond, or from the depth there is action? Why do we bring thought in?
I think when he speaks of something deep, he means thought. He means
Do you mean
obscure
that
thoughts, urges, desires, memories, noises,
Yes.
stimuli.
Well, also, we've said that a thought has a necessary role to play.
We said that. Let's
Yes.
agree.
Yeah.
Thought has necessary.
But then it must play a role in relation to what we perceive.
He must answer the serpent.
Yes.
So it must somehow be sensitive to what we perceive.
I perceive that rose.
Yes.
The perception of that rose. And where does thought come in this?
Well, if you were to do something with the rose,
Wait.
or you recognize it,
Yes, I recognize it, or I need a plant like that in the garden, or I want to give that kind of flower to somebody. So what? Next step? I'm not getting this.
well then, of course, the rose may also, the thought of the rose may give rise, let's say, to some urge to hold on to its beauty. You see, that would be the wrong function.
Yes. No, I think I'm right in this.
Yeah.
I want to stick a little bit to it. I see that there is a perception of that rose, and in the garden there must be a rose of that kind must be planted. Thought enters only into it when I have to go to the shop, to the nursery, and buy it, bring it and plant it. Finished. I'm just wondering where thought comes into this. Except in action. Well, action is to keep it in memory, store it as a beautiful thing. Which had given me great pleasure. And then the whole cycle is set going, which we said, wrong thinking, let's go. And if I need that rose in the garden, I do it. I get it.
Then that's not wrong thinking. That's
get it or not get it.
Yes, but now I was watching how wrong thinking starts going.
That's it. How does wrong thinking, that is, let's begin again, that is, on one side of the line, thought is necessary. On this side, thought is necessary, because otherwise there would be no action in the ordinary sense of that word, going to the office, all the rest of it. Now, on the other side of the line, thought is destructive. Thought is unnecessary, right? Now, how does this? Why does thought go into that area at all? Is that it?
Yes, I want to find out why it goes.
Why? That's it. Why does thought go or build up in the area where it is destructive? Now, why? Let's begin. All right, I see. That's where I like to go. Why does thought go into that area? I think it's fairly clear, fairly simple, isn't it? Why does my thought go into it? I know one side it is necessary as a function and knowledge, as experience and action, accumulation on one side. Why doesn't thought remain there, where it is necessary? Why does it enter into the other area where it is not necessary? Why?
Well, I mean, all I say is that at a certain stage there may arise a feeling or an urge. See, the thought which is purely necessary would be objective without any urge.
There may be also an urge.
There may be an urge to do something.
Something.
Yes. But this urge, in the case where it's not necessary, has a different form. I mean, it's
No.
What?
If I see it unnecessary,
yes.
and yet it arises, why does it arise?
Yes, I mean, you're making a distinction. Ordinarily, we don't see it's not necessary, but now we see it. Huh?
That is the whole question.
Yes.
On this side of the fence, I see thought is necessary. On that side of the fence, it is not necessary. And yet thought skips over the fence.
Yes. So it ignores the fence.
Constantly keeps going there. Why? First of all, I don't see it is not necessary. Because it's my habit. Because there is a subtle form of psychological pleasure in it. The desire and the feeling that, my God, is that all? You follow what I mean? There must be something much deeper than that. And the search for much deeper pleasure in this area.
In which area is it?
In the on the wrong side of the fence.
Well, I mean, what you're saying, I mean, it's a kind of a development. We have started by not knowing anything about it. Now that we know something about it, problem has changed. And
right.
now we are seeking something much deeper than we were before.
Yes.
And that way we go on fooling ourselves.
That's right.
I say that in other words, we must think this is a moving problem and not a fixed
That's
problem.
right. That's right.
That the more you learn about this, the more the problem changes.
Right.
And we have to go faster than this problem. We have to get ahead of it.
Get ahead of it.
Which means that something has escaped being seen. I mean,
Yes. You see, sir, Mr. Bill, he's saying where thought is necessary and where thought is unnecessary. We say, in this course of discussion, that thought is absolutely necessary in a certain direction, in a certain area of our existence. And in another area of our existence, thought is not necessary. Now, we fluctuate between these two. And it is pointed out that in this area, thought is not necessary. I don't see it. I don't see or understand or feel that it is not necessary. And I go on fumbling between these two all the time. Now, if I see it is not necessary, then where does the problem arise? There is no problem.
No problem.
But the problem arises only when I don't see it, and there is a tremendous attraction in this.
yes, as it seems.
Yeah, that's what I want to. There's a tremendous fascination, attraction in this, in the field where thought is not necessary. Now, why am I fascinated by it? Why is there such fascination? The fascination arises partly out of the superficiality of on this side. And I want something much deeper. Thought is dissatisfied with that. This is what is that all life. There is no mystery, there is no God, there is no incense, there is no... So thought jumps over there. And it clings to a pleasure which is not derived from there. Right? But all pleasure is derived from there.
Don't see that.
Well, it doesn't see. We don't see that it's.
Now, how am I? That's it. How am I going to see this?
That all pleasure is derived from where?
Huh?
That all pleasure is derived from that side of the line.
It comes with its own motive into the other area.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, we say that all pleasure is derived from which side?
On the one side, on the necessary
On the
side,
functional side.
functional side.
But this seems to be the non-functional side.
This is obviously non-functional.
Yes.
But if I am merely to function on one side and not function on the other, I said this is very superficial. I may be highly sensitive to the superficiality, but it's still, I am not satisfied.
Yes, I mean, the mistake is to suppose that thought can satisfy it.
Or, not or, and the search for something much deeper than thought can discover.
Thought can't go into that area.
No, thought wants to discover it and then hold on to it.
But it can't. But why does it believe that it can?
Because that's the only thing it has learned and found.
It has learned that at times we have gone deeper and deeper into thought, and therefore we suppose that we can just do that. You see, in some cases we have in the functional side gone from one level to another of depth. So therefore it seems by analogy we feel...
Okay, we can do the same thing again, quite.
Yes, now then, but we don't really see that this is another problem, it's another question. Well, we may see it in a way, but I mean there's a certain part of us that does not see it.
Yeah, or when we say thought is not necessary, it is a verbal statement, not actual fact. And when it is an actual fact, thought is not necessary. When that becomes an actual fact, then what takes place? You follow what I mean? If you convey to me, thought is not necessary, and I realize that, then I see what takes place in that area where thought is not necessary, then it won't come into it. Then thought won't jump over the fence. I don't know if...
Yes, well, the first point is that the thought will say that this area is inadequate. Now, the functional area.
Inadequate for giving pleasure.
Well, it's not deep enough.
Yes, not deep enough.
Yeah, so then we have to say, despite the fact that it really isn't deep enough, we must realize that thought cannot go deeper.
No, thought cannot go deep, full stop.
Yes.
But thought thinks it can because it has gone deep into in function.
Yes. As function has a certain kind of depth.
Of course.
Chronological depth.
Well, also a structural
Structural
depth. Many kinds of
yes, yes.
They have a certain beauty and
Yes.
But at the same time, this is of an entirely different order than anything that has ever appeared
That's
as function.
But it's sort of, can one say that it has a certain reflection of the other?
No.
Because that's why we look for the other.
No, it's not. Let's get this. It's very
tricky. Yes.
I know.
Well, it looks as if it has.
Yeah. We begin to say, what is the function of thought? We haven't yet divided as utility and non-utility.
No, this we don't yet.
What is the function of thought? Obviously to act. Then we say, at what level, at what area must it act? Right, sir? We say, though, it is necessary thought as action should take place in this area. But it is not necessary in the other. Why do we say that? We say that it's not necessary because thought in itself is a mere reaction, a mere response of a thing which has happened.
Well, we'd say even logical thought is of that nature.
Exactly.
So that's how this analogy to the microphone comes in. You see that the microphone responds to the sound wave in a similar way. It merely responds to the sound wave.
Yes.
Which is the primary action.
So I say to myself, I see that very clearly. And thought cannot possibly go and discover something which is not of its own nature. Right, sir? So I won't I've understood that.
Yes, well, let's put it that there may be a certain amount of confusion. Sometimes it appears that thought can go beyond a mere response. Do you see a mere, what do you call it, reaction?
Reaction.
Yes, that, for example, in scientific thought or in mathematical thought, one may actually create a language, you see, with a structure, which actually may predict new things, you see, which have not been known. And
this is still functional, isn't
it may be functional, but I mean we have to make it clear that
right?
thought can go very much further than one may
Obviously,
It may go very far and have
Very
very
far.
great depth and very great beauty.
Yes, very.
But so the way I see it is that it is always a reflection, that it is not the primary fact, I mean the primary reality.
Yes, yes.
That I think it does more than merely react. You see, that's why I felt a little disturbed. That the word reaction to me signifies
Quite, I understand, sir. I understand.
less than thought does. That it contains a reflection of the structure of the world, you see, which
Yes.
can be tested in the functional level
Yes.
of experiment, of equipment.
Let's skip to that word functional.
Yes,
Right.
instruments. And now we see, because of this, well, either for the, or else in art or in music, there may be another development of thought to create things. So having all this in mind, we tend to think that, and possibly other things in mind, we tend to suppose that thought may have very unlimited depth.
Yes.
And now, it is really very hard to see there is something which cannot, despite all these tremendous possibilities of thought, there is something that won't go into it at all. You
Yes.
see, that this really, we should take into account the greatest possibilities of thought rather than try to say it's only reaction.
Quite. I understand, sir. That's quite right.
And
Right.
I say in some way thought is creative, I would say, but not in the way you want. There's another kind of creation, is what
Yes,
you want to say,
yes,
which is deeper.
Yes.
That you may say there is a scientific or artistic or mathematical creation, but
it's not.
Expression.
it is the outcome of something which is not of that nature.
Yes, quite.
And now, so we have to see that the full implications of this is that there is something going very much beyond everything that we have known,
No,
however great that was.
I know through the function of thought, one can do a great deal.
Yes.
There is a great depth, there is great activity, there is a certain form of creation, all that.
Yes.
Now, my mind, the mind, is trained to that, right?
Yes.
And with that same mind, being dissatisfied, wanting some more, goes into another field and to another level tries to find it there.
But what is it really doing when it's trying to find it? I mean, that seems
Yes.
very-
What is that other level? Where is that other level?
Well, we couldn't put that into thought, you see. But what I'm trying to understand is that this is an illusion that it can go into the other level, but it must be doing something while it apparently is going into the other level.
Quite.
But it's actually doing something very different from what it seems to be doing.
It's probably searching, asking.
Yeah.
In this, in the functional side, there is really no end to sorrow.
If you give the functional side a significance, no, I mean, the functional side by itself has no sorrow, does it?
No, of course not. But I lived that.
If you take the functional side to the wrong place, to the wrong level,
Yes, of course.
then there's frustration. Is that when that's sorrow? Would you say that's
Yes,
it?
that's part of it.
And why else is there sorrow? I mean,
Because after all, a mind that's merely living in function,
it's dull. I mean,
it becomes, however clever, however so-called creative, however artistic, however, there is there is certain emptiness in that.
Yes.
It's always turning back.
but that emptiness is frustration, isn't it? You see, that it wants to find something and it doesn't find. I mean,
Yes, all right. Put it. There's in that cannot find the end of its own frustration. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
that each step then creates new frustration.
New frustration.
And that's sorrow. That's
Right. So, and that thought goes not into any field, but says, now, I must find something where there is no frustration. So thought begins to operate. Which means what, sir? Which means frustration is my despair. Frustration is sense of a pulse, a sense of misery, and I feel this very strongly, and I want to escape from it.
Yes.
And the escape, I think, lies not through church and all that kind of stuff, because I know all that game. Escape is somewhere else, totally in a different dimension.
The real escape.
Real escape.
Yeah.
And so it pursues, thought goes after that dimension.
But it can't.
And it's
Wait,
Yeah.
but I haven't realized that it can't.
But it's not really going after that dimension.
It thinks it is going
Yes.
after. It gives all the appearance of going after something in which has no sense of frustration.
But its motive is still the same
Of course.
frustration. So it's the same action exactly.
But it may apparently go deeper. I mean,
Yes. So we have analyzed. We
Yeah.
know sufficiently now. What is a person? Now, I don't see this. I don't understand that thought cannot enter into a thought cannot, under any circumstances, find a way out of frustration. Right? Right? I can't see that. Understand it.
I never quite catch up with it, I think.
Yeah. Well, put anywhere you
Yes.
like. What am I to do? I suffer more and more, despair, more and more frustration, etc., etc. And yet I insist thought will get me out, will get up. As I have found great depth in function, thought is now groping after a state in which there is no frustration. Right? It is same thought. When does the mind see the futility of such a movement? Thought will always breed frustration. Then when does it see the truth of that, the fact of that?
As long as one is using thought, can one ever see the futility?
No, but when do I realize? When does the mind realize the futility, the waste of it all?
Doesn't it have to stop using thought in order to see it?
I don't know what it means, stopping thought.
Yeah, but doesn't that have to occur?
I don't know how it occurs, I'm asking. I only know one thing, thought, which functions superficially, deeply, so-called creatively, artistically, and all that in that field. And in that field, I live and I have my being in it. All my activities are in it, and there is tremendous frustration in that. Frustration being ultimate death, all that's involved in it. And mind uses the thought in which it has nurtured. With that thought, it seeks something which is not frustration, which is not death, which is something totally different. And you come and tell me, don't use thought there. I say, what are you talking about? Now, what will make me see, in the sense see, understand factually, that thought cannot end frustration?
thought itself cannot see its own futility. Got it.
I agree all that. I agree to all that. But the result is, I don't see it. Therefore, they say, suffer more. Right, sir?
That's why I say I don't want to suffer.
I said, no, please. Suffer more, practice more, discipline more. You follow what I mean? Control, be chaste, be poor, it's all there. And yet I go on battling with frustration all the time. What will make me, sir, see that thought, in essence, breeds frustration? It is necessary, we admit all that, so we move away. What will make me see it? Make my mind say, right, I've got it. It won't.
All I can say is that seeing all this frustration, the mind comes to rest.
Does it? Does it?
Well,
does it? On the contrary. I failed there. It has. Now I'm going to seek it somewhere else.
Well, it seems that
or one becomes terribly cynical, bitter, commits suicide.
Is it something to do with the fact that there's pressure all the time, and this pressure has to stop?
Well, put it any way you like.
The frustration is pressure itself. And if one sees...
You see, you're only putting in different words, but I'm stuck with my frustration.
It seems to me that what Mary was saying, that any way of using thought to get out of it seems... Perhaps we have to ask another question.
What is the question?
Well, can we somehow look back at the frustration and see...
I can see what is my ambition, my desire to be this, dozens forms of self produce frustration.
But
I mean, we have taken for granted the whole structure which has brought about frustration.
Yes.
Right? We know it.
Yes.
So it's all right.
But I have a sort of picture that at this stage perhaps it's as though one is in the middle and looking round in every direction. There's nowhere to go because you've seen the frustration.
We're still in the area.
But then you are brought, perhaps, it seems that you can't escape here, you can't escape here. There's no escape because you've seen every direction brings the frustration. But you don't know what to do.
Wait a minute.
You just don't know what
to do.
do.
Look what happens. I'm frustrated in one direction, and if I'm fairly intelligent, I say, quite right, now I'm going to in another direction. And I put my whole energy, heart, everything into it, and at the end of it I'm still frustrated.
Yes.
And I move away from that into another, and I keep going like this.
Well, we've now seen that we've all gone through that.
That's what I want to finish with that.
Yes.
We've all gone through that.
Yes.
So then I say to myself, now, I realize thought breeds this frustration. And thought must function in certain area excellently, and yet not breed frustration. You follow, sir? We have got the clue. Right? Thought must function excellently in the field where it is necessary without frustration. It is only then it won't go into that. Right, sir?
And that we can know.
Wait. I don't know. We're going to find out. Why is the mind frustrated?
Yes, that's the question.
Yes, that's in there. Not
yes.
how.
And while we are doing functional thought, the mind becomes frustrated.
Why?
Because we want more, I mean.
Oh, go into it.
Because we are not keeping to the functional. I mean.
Therefore, which means what? That's it. Function is necessary. But function with status, with position,
pleasure.
power, position, all that must breed frustration. I want to be the biggest man, I want, all the rest of the stupid stuff.
Well, we'll put it this way, that function, which is aimed at something else, emotional, let's say, such as pleasure or status
Yes,
or
it
security,
must breed frustration.
breeds frustration because there's nothing to do with that.
Yes.
Uh,
And yet I must function there. See, why it's... If there is frustration there, my mind is not sensitive, is made dark. Frustration is painful. All the coarsening and fearful anxiety, that makes the mind dark, and therefore it loses sensitivity. But I must have sensitivity with function, without frustration, right?
It seems to me that I may have a tendency to try to get sensitivity by using this wrong approach.
I don't think it'll work that
It doesn't work. I mean, I think that there
Yes,
is such a
yes,
tendency.
of course it won't.
I mean, I'm dissatisfied with the sensitivity, perhaps, and
Right?
you hope that this bringing in emotions may
Right?
make it more
I
sensitive.
see something, right, sir?
Mm.
That is, you and I see the obvious fact that there must be excellency of function without frustration. In that, not somewhere else. Because you and I see, where there is frustration, there is a lessening of sensitivity, right?
And function breaks down.
Of course, function breaks down, all that we know.
Yeah. But there seems to be a peculiar form of self-deception that arises that as sensitivity is lost, one resorts to this kind of stimulation from... in other words, the very thing which has caused the trouble seems to cause... It looks as if it will be the stimulus to sensitivity.
So, and you and I see that, right? So we say to you, you and I say together, thought in function must be excellent, without frustration, and therefore heightened form of sensitivity. Now that's right. Huh? Then is there another area? The line on the other side.
But there can't be in thought.
No. If there is only function and not frustration, and I live there, function there, and there is great sensitivity there. Can I remain there? Can I and not remain? What more do I want?
Yes, it seems there's another part of you that...
Yes, that's it. What more do I want? I have realized function without frustration and heightened sensitivity. Now, go on, sir. What happens then?
Well, it still...
Do I want any more?
There seems to be, at least at the moment, that it may seem mechanical or...
Are you saying that the moving away from that is caused by frustration? If one could stick to that application, proper application of that function, there would be no frustration, and therefore one could remain within that area
You remain
without
in that
any
area.
trouble.
I remain in that area. But deep down,
isn't that limited, that area?
deep down in me, say, what?
It's not enough.
That's what have you done?
These limitations are...
No, wait. See, what have I done? What have you got in life? What is there? Just to function like a machine without frustration and a heightened sensitivity? I say that's not good enough. Why isn't it good enough?
Terribly limited.
Yeah, well, I put it that way, terribly limited.
Superficial.
I don't quite understand, because it seems when you ask this question you've already moved outside the area into the other.
No, I'm not moved. I'm asking myself, is that all?
But isn't that a sort of seed?
No. I say to myself, look, I function as a good clerk, like a good machine. I have no frustration, and machines that function very well are very sensitive. All right. Well, sir?
Well, as soon as you ask that question, you are frustrated again, aren't you?
No, I'm not frustrated. Because I say, what happens to me? I've become a perfect machine, not having any taste of frustration, and very sensitive.
How can one not have any frustration if the thing is so limited and the capability of the human, whatever it is much larger than this area in which thought functions properly? Isn't there an inevitable imbalance?
You're not staying with it. You're moving away. You're speculating on it. I say I'm functioning like a good machine, and a machine that functions very well has no frustration, and is very sensitive.
But one isn't a good machine.
Wait, we have said this. We see this. You and I see this very well in great detail and depth and quality and all that. And I'm not frustrated. Doesn't mean anything to me. Because I'm very sensitive. I function like a clockwork. Finished. Why don't I stay there a minute? Right, sir? Because my mind says, oh boy, that isn't good enough. You want this man is meant to be something more than that beastly little machine with highly sensitive. So thought runs after that.
Yes, you have started thought.
I beg again.
Yes.
No, wait.
Is thought telling you that?
Yes,
Well,
of
that
course.
is a thought, you see.
Of course.
How could you know that? If it's not thought?
Of course. So I say, all right. I say, wait. Don't chase after something. I'm going to wait. You follow, sir, what I mean? Thought is not going to shoot off.
Well, we say that thought may arise, but it does not necessarily lead to the
Yes,
urge.
of course, it arises and it immediately dies.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, if thought is functioning and is not frustrated in this way you described, why would it then ask the question?
Now I'm asking because we are not satisfied with that.
But if thought is functioning so perfectly in this area, why is it not satisfied?
Thought itself sees what? And I've reduced myself to a perfect machine. I have no frustration. I'm sensitive.
Isn't it to ask that question? Is it not? Doesn't it have to be in a state of frustration?
No. Thought is no. Why should I be in frustration?
Because if the function of thought is functioning perfectly,
why should I be in
why
frustration?
should it ask beyond?
I ask myself because this is such a very limited affair.
But if thought is asking,
it is asking. Don't you ask it? You just now said it's very limited, didn't you?
yes.
Therefore you have started thought.
But at that moment you feel frustration, don't you?
Yes. At that moment when you say it's very limited, you have already started the wheels of frustration.
Yes, but we'd set up a situation.
No, that is in theory.
No frustration.
That is in
Thought
theory.
is functioning.
That is in theory.
Well, let's say for a moment you function perfectly, and then you begin to think, is this enough?
Yes.
And then you're
Yes.
frustrated again.
Again.
So,
Yes, but I understand because I have this. One wonders from where this question arises. This thought
that's
of
relative.
see, because if it's functioning perfectly, why?
Yes,
It's
where are the
You
wheels?
see, how does it?
You look at
come?
it, Mrs. M. Look, don't you ask it?
Yes,
Why?
I do, but
Why?
the analogy set up a situation in which thought functioned perfectly in its limited, defined area. Without, the definition was there was no frustration in it.
Well, we've examined all that.
Yes.
And
So I
all
say,
right, I
do
function like a machine, like a sensitive machine.
Yes.
If that...
There are lots of people who do this.
Yes.
A good bureaucrat does this. And you look at him and say, what?
What next? Where now?
Not when, what
What else?
what a dead human being he is. Huh? And so, I realize I'm a good bureaucrat, whatever it is, good function, no frustration, and sensitive. Huh? That's what we saw. Then what do I do? Do I set the process of thought going, seeking a state which is not mere limitation?
No, then I'm back again in frustration.
Back again in the same circle. So I said, wait a minute. So I said to myself, wait, don't move.
I think so we should say that there was a thought, the thought that it's limited arose, and that's in itself true, but to go any further with it becomes false.
Yes, false. Don't move. Forget the other area, just don't move. Without resistance, without feeling that you're being held in, you follow? Which are all indication of frustration. So just, you have seen this whole map and this whole structure, and you say, but how true that is. Then the problem arises. Is there something which is not so limited, which is not asked from frustration, right? That's the difference, right, sir?
Yeah, it could still be a form of thought.
It needn't be a frustration.
No.
Thought.
No.
It's not a
No. I asked that question.
with the mouth.
Without frustration,
Demand or urge.
Keeping sensitivity, thought says to itself, I am not seeking. I don't want anything. Because I know it'll breed again frustration. It says, is there something else? I can ask that question out of frustration, right? Or I can ask it in a totally different...
Factually, as it
No. In a totally different field, in a different area. Where there is no pleasure, where there is no sense of gain, loss, all the rest of that stuff. That question is not the outcome of frustration, right?
But is it even a question? I mean, it's...
I put that question to see, to able to communicate together. That's all. It's not...
It's really a movement rather than a question, right?
But first I must come to that point. Where I function without frustration and have real sensitivity, not partial, total feeling, then I discover a movement which is not a frustration. And I put that, and I want to communicate to you about that movement, and I say to you, is that all? You follow, sir?
Yes.
You got it? No?
Yes, I'll just wrestle with it.
Well, I mean...
What's operating then is what?
The way it seems to me, almost as if there's almost like signal going out all over.
All over. That's right.
Like a radar almost.
Yeah, like a radar.
Would you say that's like a tension, or it's not
Yes,
quite?
call it, doesn't matter. But without that I can't. You follow, sir? I'm living in a world of illusion.
If your eyes got a frustration, it will maybe go into the same field.
No, that's and after all, you are a scientist, you ask that question. But you are not asking that question because you are frustrated. But if you ask that question because you want to be the best professor, best scientist, then it is frustration, and your question will have no validity. You will then maybe discover more in that area of function.
Or even if you ask the question in order to avoid the feeling of frustration,
Yes.
in the same...
Yes.
But if you ask really with the intent to know, or to find out, rather, to discover...
That question is merely to open the door.
Well, you say that thought opens the door.
And it's not a door.
No, a door is opened.
Yes.
The question is, but it seems that the question is first in the form of thought.
Skip all this, in the form of thought, in the form of word, in the form of communication, and that's just like...
Then it's understood and the door is opened, right?
Yeah. Whether a door is opened or not is the question. You follow, sir? I can ask that question. But whether it actually opens the door is for me to find out. If I have not done this extraordinary disciplinary cleaning up function, frustration, sensitivity, I may delude myself thinking I have opened a door. And that's what most of us do. Then, if you can go along further, open the door, then what happens? You follow, sir? is it possible to communicate?
I mean, what happens?
Yes. What happens when you and I both know thought has functioned without frustration, sensitivity, and when we put that question, what, you and I know a door has opened, not illusory door, but actual door.
Yes, but of course it may close or open.
I mean,
yeah.
for the moment it seems to be opened.
Mm.
It may close next second. So, what takes place? Is there thought at all? Thought as we know it.
But what do you mean by as we know? Is there
Thought in the area where it is function.
But would you say there is thought in another area?
We're going to ask.
Mm.
I'm not saying there is or there is not. We know thought functioning in this area. That's it. Now, when the door is opened, is there thought at all? And if there is no thought, what's going on? Right, sir? What's going on? Is it puzzling? Are you puzzled by this? You see, sir, thought as function without frustration is limited, we said. However refined, however subtle, however non-egotistic, it is still very limited. I'm using the word limited not as a derogatory or as a frustration which wants to get out.
First of all, I would say it is only a reflection, and therefore you cannot live in a reflection.
Reflection, right. That's a dangerous statement to make that. If we cannot live in a reflection, then what is truth?
Yes, well, you mean that it invites you to continue thought.
That's why I want to cut it. So I say yes. That is very limited. The very perception of that limitation, right? The perception, the seeing of it, is the opening the door. Not thought has opened the door. That's right. Right, sir? Right, sir? The very perception or awareness, whatever it does matter, of that limitation is the act of opening the door. So, which is, thought hasn't opened the door. It's like saying that is poisonous moving. Right?
And the stopping thought.
No, moving. Oh, it's a movement. Right? I know thought is necessary. It's a movement, not of thought, it's a movement. Right?
Well,
What's that?
I mean, it still seems the same that there's all I can say is there's some sort of signaling and relaxation of something, which seems to become empty. I mean,
That's it. That's right.
I mean, it seems that certain, so let's say something goes out and to feel out all the...
Quite relax, quite.
What?
Yes. Relax is, these are words which are so dreadful to use, as a matter of fact.
What?
These words are rather dreadful to use, relaxed.
I mean to feel out the different
yes, quite.
things that are going on.
Now, sir, wait a minute. We've opened the door. I don't know what there is. But from that opening the door, there is a fresh air, let's call it, fresh draft. With that freshness, I'm using just words just to convey something, it doesn't matter, we'll change the word. Is it not possible to function without frustration, with sensitivity, from that open door, you follow, sir? And then this whole activity has a different meaning. It will not become mechanical. That's what I'm saying.
Well, this open door, it seems to me it's like an open space, let's say. All right, you call it fresh, right?
It's like smelling something totally different. And it has filled your nostrils, your head, your body, and with that, one functions. Functions in a field in which there is no frustration, you follow all that. This is the most dangerous thing you follow, sir.
What do you mean by dangerous?
Dangerous unless one has really understood that, function, this becomes a nightmare.
Why should it be a nightmare?
Because people love this.
Love what?
They have freshness, they have God, they have seen freedom and all the rest of it, and now they're...
What you mean a thought starts over?
And that's what world is built on. The priests, the mystics, the saints, the whole gang of them, that's what they have done.
What I mean to say is that if we start to verbalize this thing, then it'll become worse than the other.
Worse than the other.
Yes.
So my only function is not to bother about the door, window, nothing but this.
You mean that if you are aware of this, then this will...
I don't have even talk about it.
The other takes care of itself.
It's like leaving the window open and the air coming in and going out. I'm not concerned. I can't invite the air. It's just open window.
That function takes on a different meaning,
Yes.
a more creative meaning.
Yes. Very good. But for me, an ordinary human being living in this world, to see that is one of them. You follow? Is a tremendous... I have to apply myself so terrifically.
Well, at first it's very faint. I mean, I may see it, but I mean, it seems something very faint. I mean, very on the edge of awareness.
To function without prestige, without frustration. That itself is an extraordinary state. Huh? Which means really to function without self-centered activity.
Yes. Does this function also looks at thought, or at the place where thought goes wrong? I mean,
that's where thought goes wrong, of course.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, this space can look at where thought goes wrong.
No, I'm not talking of that space. To me, that is irrelevant as long as I haven't understood this.
Which is what? Function?
Function. After all, relationship is function. Whether I talk to the clerk or the boss, or the whole thing.
But if function arises from thought, then it's frustrated.
Frustrated.
It's inadequate. It's wrong.
That's right.
But there is a function which arises from...
I won't touch that. I said, unless I know this so completely, I'm apt to deceive myself.
So the first thing is to leave the empty space alone. Just start from there and function.
That's right.
To see if you can function without frustration.
See, that brings in beauty and sensitivity.
When you say beauty, is that the same as order? Or
yes, order. I know the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That very functioning without frustration is sensitivity, which, because of that state, something will take place. X, we'll call it for the moment. But you see, we don't want to do that, but we're seeking X.
You say X is a byproduct of that?
Absolutely.
Yes. Because what we can do is this and not X.
Not X.
But we can do this.
See, but from here, we meditate to capture the X, and capturing it, function with it.
No, we function from this.
Impossible, all that.
But X is something which follows naturally.
Naturally. Like
when you
leaving the door open, the air comes in.
Yes.
But I want to be quite sure the air comes in.
Yes. We don't want to.
We haven't had door.
You don't want to just create the appearance of opening the door.
It's the time, sir.
20 post 5, sir.
Oh, better stop because we have to go.
Well, I don't have to go, so we can go on.
No, this will come to an end. Don't you think so? We'll continue. When do we meet? You're going away, aren't you?
Yes, I am, yes.
When do we meet? Where is today? Saturday?
Today is Saturday, sir.
I must have a few days rest. Tuesday?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
What time?
In the morning.
Saturday?
In the morning.
Morning.
What time in the morning?
11:30.